Welcome to Youth Voices of Greater Cincinnati. Today I'm with my co-host,
Cindy Williams,
and my special guest,
Mr. Sean Weisgerber.
Okay, tell us what your favorite part about coaching.
I'd say my favorite part about coaching is seeing the joy on people's faces when we're successful and they're having fun and they're enjoying the sport.
What is the hardest part about coaching?
I'd say the hardest part about coaching is having those tough conversations about, who's going to do what somebody's role is going to be on a team. I think that's difficult dealing with, people if they're upset or unhappy about a situation. That's not something that necessarily is easy to talk about. There's the highs and then you have the lows. And I would say having those difficult conversations after a tough loss, whatever it might be, those are the tougher things to do.
If you had to coach one other sport, what would it be?
If I had to coach one other sport, I think it would probably be baseball, because that's a sport I was going to play in college, and it's a sport I know really, really well, and I enjoy watching baseball, playing baseball, coaching baseball. I've coached baseball in the past, and it is another sport that down the line I'd like to get back into.
Why did you decide to be a coach?
Why did I decide to be a coach? Well, with teaching, it kind of comes hand in hand. It's a supplemental little deal, so it's nice to have something to do outside of the normal school day. And I'd say second, I enjoy sports. I enjoy competitiveness. I enjoy being a part of like that feeling of winning that goes along with it, and that feeling of losing that goes along with it. It kind of drives me, kind of keeps my motor moving, and I just enjoy sports in general.
When you're down by so many, how does it feel when your players are upset?
Being down, I've lost in my day. I've personally been a part of an 0-10 football season at my alma mater, Taylor High School. So I know what it feels like. I've been there. It's not a fun feeling. It's almost like a helpless feeling. So at that point, you have to understand that it isn't anything that you did. It's more or less you can't go into the locker room battening down the hatches, screaming, yelling, whatever it might be. You have to understand that I've been in those shoes, and I've been on the other side of that, coaching in those shoes. So frustration doesn't solve anything in those cases. I'm frustrated internally, but I can't show that I'm frustrated when we're getting our doors kicked in.
How many years have you coached?
This will be my 5th year coaching right now. Yep, I've been coaching for 5 years. I started coaching like a little kids team, in baseball, and kind of worked my way up with the Reds Urban Youth Academy down the street.
Was there a time when you were encouraging your players when you felt hopeless yourself?
I wouldn't say I've ever felt helpless myself. There has been times where I think that we've underperformed to the level that we could be at. So, I've had teams that have been really, really, really good. My first year of coaching at New Miami, we finished second in the league that we're currently in boys basketball, and we were really, really, really good. And there was points where, I've never necessarily felt helpless, but I do get agitated at points. And, yes, you're encouraging players to be successful and do what they need to do, but at the same time, if they don't want it, you could take a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. So if they can't internally figure things out, that's not something you can't coach. That has to come from the person who's playing the sport.
Do you plan to continue coaching?
Yes, I plan to continue coaching. Now, there will be a time where I cut down on how much I am coaching. Right now, I'm currently coaching 3 sports, so there's quite a bit. But one day I would like to cut that down to 1 or 2 so I can enjoy life a little bit more and I'm not constantly at school. So I guess that part of coaching, yes, I want to coach something every year because it kind of keeps me, gets my mind off of school, gets my mind off of whatever. And what's nice about coaching is you get to see people outside of the normal classroom. So you get to know people a little bit more outside of the classroom rather than just purely academic where I'm doing what you need to do inside of the classroom.
Has anyone encouraged you during a game?
Has anyone encouraged me during a game? My mom and dad have come to some games. It's funny, my mom, when she comes to games, she still gives me like the stank eye across the way, like when she's there, like I need to calm down or something about something, because she thinks I overreact to a lot of things, which we'll agree to disagree on that with my mom. But when she's there, I definitely could tell, kind of like when players look at their parents. My mom's across the way and I'm coaching. She gives me one of these or just looks at me and shakes her head. And I just kind of, at this point, I've gotten accustomed to ignoring my mom through the years, so I just continue to ignore her.
If you can remember, what was your favorite game out of all the sports that
I've ever coached or watched?
Watched.
Whew. Ever watched? Man, that would be it's going back. Ever watched? Let's see. I will say this. Ever watched, the most enjoyable game was 2011. I was at Xavier. I was cheerleading. They were playing UC. It was the year of the brawl. And Xavier, before the brawl was there was whatever happened with that, but UC, we hadn't beat them by that much in probably 30 years, and they're up like 21 points, and the place was electric. The week before that, they were playing Purdue. They were down 19 points. The exact Saturday before that, it was on December 3rd, and the crosstown shootout was on December 5th or December 10th because it was my mom's birthday. And I'll never forget. They're down 19, and Holloway comes back, and he just reels them back in with 11 minutes to go, and they end up winning the game. So those two games in that week were just two incredible Xavier basketball games that I was in person. I was right on the floor. It was something else.
Does coaching make you restless at night?
Coaching middle school sports, not necessarily. When I leave, I don't think about the sport until I get back on the Monday. If I coached high school sports and I was a varsity coach, yeah, I'd probably be restless at night because I would be upset about this, that, or the other, because the pressure as you get up into the higher levels of coaching, it rises with it because the expectation rises because it is a varsity sport. You're getting ranked by other people. There's first team, there's second team. You're matching up against teams that are your size when you get to the state tournament, and so you're trying to do everything in that respect. But I'm not usually restless at night about coaching.
So once you begin coaching JV, will you be more restless at night?
I would probably say no, because the responsibility, I'll be the assistant coach, so the responsibility won't necessarily be on my shoulders. I think that's the other thing too. When you're an assistant coach, you don't necessarily feel the weight as much because you're not the one having to make the calls.
Have you ever got a technical?
I have gotten three technicals in my coaching career in basketball. I got two my first year of coaching on some things that I didn't necessarily agree with. The officials were a little young. I didn't think that necessarily warranted a technical foul. And then I got one, I want to say when you guys were in the 6th grade, we were playing over at Batavia. I want to say we were playing Amelia in the tournament, and I got one. The official had kind of warned us a few times, and I got one for stomping my foot on the ground real hard, and he teed me up, and I had to sit on the bench the rest of the game. But there have been times where I've earned, in some cases, maybe the technical, or not earned the technical in some cases.
What do you do when your players are crying?
Well, that has happened in the past, and I guess coaching boys sports or being a part of boys culture, I guess that was never really allowed, and so I don't really know how to console people in that respect. So I kind of just let them do what they need to do in terms of crying, and I ask questions, I guess, later. I care about the players that play for me, but that's something I'm not too well at dealing with. I don't deal with it well. I don't know. I guess I struggle to deal with it.
Do you consider yourself as a good coach?
I think there's things that I struggle with that I need to get better at, but I'd say overall I've gotten progressively better through the years. I mean, I look back at the first year I coached, things that I did, how I did them versus, in the past, these past couple years, getting better, progressively better as I've learn from other coaches, learn from watching videos, learn from watching other teams play and what they do, how they do it, how they carry themselves, what they deem as like an important goal, what their vision is in terms of what they want their athletes to look like from the time they enter this grade to the time they leave this grade.
As you're saying, you say you struggle with not a lot of things, but some things. What is one of the most?
I think one of the most difficult things is when you have somebody that you don't necessarily connect with all that well. Sometimes I have a short fuse with people. I can kind of get mad kind of quickly and agitated kind of quickly. And coaching middle school sports, everybody's a little bit more squirrely. And, I take like a bad day, for instance, at school, and I get into practice. And if you've already had prior history with the person in the classroom because they haven't done what you've asked them to do, you're upset about what's going on. So it kind of just, you're already kind of working up the ladder, and then one little thing is like the straw that broke the camel's back, and next thing you know, you're taking it out on everybody, and you're screaming, hooting, and hollering in practice because they haven't done what they needed to do, in the classroom or done something in the hallways, and it doesn't sit well with me until I'm able to actually decompress and move away from the situation. That's especially prevalent after school. If we go right from school and then we go right to practice, and it's right after school, and I don't have any time just to decompress and get away from everybody for a second.
Do you do any drills about self-confidence?
Self-confidence. Let's see. Drills about self-confidence. Not really. I guess the drills that I guess I would say I instituted something last year where everybody's got to come together. I mean, that would be a drill about self-confidence. But last year in volleyball as well, the whole blindfold drill where you got to walk around and you have to have your teammate guide you, that'd be self-confidence. But self-confidence is something that you have to learn yourself, and you have to become confident in what you do. And so I'd say self-confidence for me is not screaming and yelling after every little thing that goes wrong. If it's a culmination of things, yes, but not getting myself so worked up because, in middle school especially, that self-confidence is huge.
That was fun. Did anyone try to convince you to be a coach?
I'd say my 7th grade world history teacher, Mr. Scott Wilson at Three Rivers or Taylor Middle School now, he was the one that kind of got me into coaching at with the Reds, and he helped me out quite a bit. I still talk to him quite a bit, bounce off ideas with him. He was the one that really got me into coaching and kind of the idea behind doing something outside of the normal school day, and so he's been kind of like my mentor. I still talk to him quite a bit, probably once a week, get chicken wings with him once every couple of months, and sit down and just have conversations about school, have conversations about coaching.
Is it hard when people come up to you and say, how did you do when your team lost?
Yeah, I'm honest with people. I mean, you can see what was out on the floor, so I'm honest with people. And people, I'm honest back with them. They're honest with me. I'm honest back with them. I don't really care. I mean, unless it's something egregious like, Coach, you guys really struggled out there today. That kind of stuff kind of irritates me a little bit. Well, yeah, you watch the same game I watch. You could tell I'm irritated and agitated. You don't need to come and restate that. You could maybe give us a little bit of advice. Hey, what could we do better? What did you see that I maybe didn't see? But coming out and telling me, yeah, we struggled. Well, yeah, anybody could see that. So, I don't mind it. It's just, it has to be kind of in the proper channel.
Do you ever have trouble finding drills to do at practice?
My first couple years of coaching, especially volleyball, I went to Google and YouTube a lot, and I still, every now and again, if I think that there's something that we're struggling with, I go back to YouTube and I look things up on a pretty regular basis because I think that's important to kind of keep myself at the top of the curve. What drills are they doing? What drills are they doing? What drills are they doing? And a lot of it is just going to coaching clinics, watching other teams practice around here to kind of see what they're doing and the drills that they're doing and kind of learning from other people.
When you guys are after the game, what do you say to your team?
It depends on how the game goes. If you've lost, it depends on how we played. Okay, I've had teams that have gone out and lost by a couple points to really, really good teams, and we played really, really, really well. But then I've been on the flip side of that where we've won and we played terrible, and the message is a lot different. So it's not necessarily about winning or losing. It's about how much growth did you show? Did you make yourself any better today? If you made a lot of mental mistakes and we came out and beat a bad team, I'm still going to be mad about the game. But if we came out and we played a really good team and then we came up a little short, I'm okay with that. But when we lose to a bad team that we should have beat, that's when I'm my most upset, frustrated.
Who would you consider as a great athlete?
I would say it's somebody first who kind of they let their actions do the talking. They're not somebody who shows up and does a lot of talking. They're not the first one in front of the mic doing a lot of talking. I think a great athlete is defined by what they do. And, the best athletes haven't necessarily won championships. I look at a guy like Joey Votto, plays for Cincinnati Reds, first baseman. He's never won a championship. He might not ever win a championship, but he'll go down as one of the best hitters in Cincinnati Reds history. There's a grit to them. They carry themselves in a way. They have a swagger where they don't want to lose. Another hometown hero would be Pete Rose. Yes, he's done some immoral things, but he had that grit. He had that I don't want to lose mentality. He didn't blame other people for his mistakes. He just owned up to it. And, to be a part of a team, there has to be a common goal, a common vision. If you look at a guy like by the name of Michael Jordan, he led the offensive and defensive statistics in 1988. Didn't win a championship. He was just on an island. But in order to be part of a team, great athlete has to be that leader of that team. And, you go back, he won, 6 NBA championships in a row. But they didn't really have a goal or a vision in 1988. Yes, he was the offensive, defensive, leader in both categories, but they didn't have a vision. They didn't have a goal. And so they didn't win the championship. He figured it out. He became a leader. And a great athlete has to have the ability to lead a team.
Do you have an influential coach?
Influential coach. I'd probably say the most influential coach was the coach that coached me in baseball my 8th and 9th grade year, Coach Saggers. He's an official. He's actually officiated a couple of my games before. He was influential because he would sit down and have the conversation. He'd yell at you first. Okay, I'll never forget. We were playing I gave a home run up to a guy I played high school baseball with at summer baseball, and I mean it was a lob shot. I didn't get the fastball down, and it was up in the zone, not down in the zone, and he crushed it out of the ballpark. And I turned, and he's just screaming, and so I kind of let him go. Well, a couple innings later, he pulled me, and I'm back up on the fence. I never let that stuff get to me, and he kind of pulled me aside. He said, "I wasn't mad at you. I was just mad at that pitch." I said, "Well, Coach, we all make mistakes." He said, "Oh, I know, been there, done that. I just wanted to let you know that, hey, it wasn't anything that you personally did." He said, "I wasn't yelling directly at you. I was yelling at the situation, the pitch." And so, kind of taking that in stride and not taking it personal. And he always would have that conversation with you after the fact. He wouldn't just let you go walk off and you're thinking, well, why is he yelling at me? Does he not like me? Does he not care about me? He'd let out the whole conversation diffuse itself, and then he would re-engage with you after the fact. He was real good at going from here down to here, then having that conversation with you.
What sport do you like to coach the most?
Sport I like to coach the most, I'd say volleyball. I mean, I know quite a bit about it. Basketball, I think I get frustrated because there's so many nuances to the game, and I've had success, but there again, I haven't had success. Here I've only won, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, maybe 6 games. So I guess I haven't had as much success with it, whereas volleyball I've had a lot more success, and I've seen what good teams look like, where in basketball sometimes I'm scratching my head going, oh my gosh, what can I do to fix this?
Is there any advice out there you would like to give to anyone that wants to be a coach when they're older?
I would say the biggest piece of advice would be enjoy coaching. Don't get into it just because you want to collect a paycheck. You want to get into it because you want to make a difference in people's lives.
Just 2 final questions. How many Final Fours have Xavier won? Directed by Mr. Luking.
Xavier has never been to a Final Four. I figured Mr. Luking would like to get that on camera. They have not, but that's going to change in the next couple of years. I can guarantee you that.
One more. What was the score? Do you remember? To the last one?
Of the last
Xavier game?
The last Xavier game?
Yeah.
They won the last Xavier game.
No.
Oh, what about the one going on right now?
Oh, they're not winning that one, no.
Go Creighton. Thank you for coming, and thank you for watching Youth Voices of Greater Cincinnati. Until next time.